right now, governments around the world are finally admitting what most people always suspected. We are not alone. This is episode 1 of a 10-part series, exploring what Spiritism already knew about the civilizations out there long before any file was declassified. Let's begin. Somewhere out there, right now, another consciousness is looking up at its sky and asking the same question you are asking. Allan Kardec knew this in 1868, not because he guessed, not because he believed, because he asked and something answered. In July of 2023, something happened in the United States Congress that 50 years ago would have been unthinkable. Sworn testimony, under oath, before a House Oversight Subcommittee, on the subject of non-human intelligence. The witnesses were not conspiracy theorists. They were former intelligence officers, a Navy commander, an Air Force pilot, a career intelligence official with the highest security clearances, and what they described with the same measured tone used to discuss any other matter of national security was a phenomenon the United States government had spent 70 years officially denying. Objects in our skies that do not behave like anything we can build. 2 years earlier, in June of 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence had quietly released a report acknowledging 144 military encounters that could not be explained by conventional means. In 2023, NASA convened its first official independent study panel on the subject, chaired by an astrophysicist, staffed by scientists, recommending that the phenomenon be taken seriously by the institution that landed humans on the moon. Something has shifted. The question that civilization has avoided for most of its recorded history, are we alone, has finally moved from the margins of conversation to the center of serious science. But while telescopes, spectrometers, and intelligence agencies race to answer the question, almost no one is mentioning a small, strange detail. The answer was published in 1868 by a French educator, working with nothing but his pen and his method. And it was the same answer that the most advanced telescopes in human history are now very slowly beginning to confirm. His name was Allan Kardec, and his book was called Genesis. What modern science has finally discovered. To understand how astonishing Kardec's claims were, you have to first understand what science believed in his time. In 1868, the year Genesis was published, astronomy was still arguing about whether there were galaxies beyond our own. The word galaxy did not yet have its modern meaning. The vast majority of astronomers believed the Milky Way might be the entire universe. The idea that other stars had planets was speculation. The idea that those planets might harbor life was, in most scientific circles, considered unprovable and possibly unscientific. That was the world Kardec was writing in. Now consider where we are. In 1992, the first exoplanet, a planet orbiting another star, was confirmed. It was the only one we had ever found. By 2025, we have confirmed more than 5,500. Some of them are in what astronomers call the habitable zone, the narrow band around a star where liquid water can exist on a planet's surface. The conditions, in other words, for life as we know it. In 2017, NASA announced the discovery of the TRAPPIST-1 system, a small red dwarf star 40 light-years away with 7 Earth-sized planets in orbit around it, 3 of them in the habitable zone. 1 star 3 potentially habitable worlds. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope, the most powerful instrument humanity has ever built, detected something extraordinary in the atmosphere of K2 to 18b. A planet 120 light-years away. Among the molecules in its atmosphere was a chemical called dimethyl sulfide. On Earth, dimethyl sulfide is produced almost exclusively by living organisms, specifically marine phytoplankton. The scientific community is still debating what this means, but the detection itself was a moment that should be remembered. For the first time in human history, instrument on Earth had identified a molecule on a planet beyond our solar system that, here at home, only life produces. This is the universe we now know we live in. A universe of stars uncountable, of planets uncountable, atmospheres that may or may not be breathing. The question has changed. It is no longer whether life exists elsewhere. It is how soon we will prove it. The paradox eindi equidem. In 1961, a young radio astronomer named Frank Drake sat down to do a calculation. He took the number of stars in the galaxy. He multiplied it by the fraction that likely have planets. He multiplied that by the fraction of planets that might be in the habitable zone. He kept multiplying by the probability of life arising, by the probability of life becoming intelligent, by the probability of intelligence producing detectable technology. The result became known as the Drake equation. Even with the most pessimistic estimates Drake could justify, the equation predicted that there should be thousands of detectable civilizations in our galaxy alone. 11 years earlier, in 1950, the physicist Enrico Fermi was having lunch at the Los Alamos cafeteria when the conversation turned to flying saucers. The room got into a discussion about extraterrestrial life, and Fermi, in the middle of the conversation, asked a question that would haunt astronomy for the next 3/4 of a century. If they should be everywhere, where are they? The Fermi Paradox. The universe is vast. The mathematics says intelligent life should be abundant. Our galaxy is over 13 billion years old. There has been plenty of time for civilizations to arise, spread, and announce themselves. And yet we have heard nothing. The silence has produced an entire field of speculation. Perhaps life is rare. Perhaps intelligence is rare. Perhaps civilizations destroy themselves before they can be detected. Perhaps they are deliberately hidden. Perhaps we are early. Perhaps we are late. Or perhaps, and this is the possibility very few mainstream scientists have been willing to entertain, perhaps framework we have used to ask the question is missing something essential. Perhaps we have been listening only with radio antennas when the conversation was always happening on another frequency entirely. This is precisely the point where Allan Kardec, writing in 1868, becomes impossible to ignore, because he did not arrive at the question through telescopes or equations. He arrived at it through a different method, and the answer he received was startling in its completeness. What Kardec wrote in 1868. The Spiritist book was first published in 1857. In its pages, question 55, Kardec asks the most direct version of the question possible. Are the celestial bodies that we see inhabited like the Earth? The answer recorded is one of the most remarkable single passages in any 19th century text. Yes, and the inhabitants of Earth are far from being as they imagine the first in intelligence, goodness, and perfection. There are men who consider themselves very advanced, and who imagine that this small globe alone has, among millions of others, the privilege of being inhabited by reasoning beings. Read that again. 1857. Before exoplanets were known to exist. Before the Milky Way was understood to be one of trillions. Before any serious astronomer would have publicly committed to the existence of life beyond Earth. A French educator working through mediums, recording answers from sources he did not pretend to fully understand, was being told categorically and dismissively that the human assumption of cosmic uniqueness was not just wrong, but slightly embarrassing. 11 years later, in 1868, Kardec published Genesis. Genesis was his most ambitious work. It was an attempt to reconcile religious cosmology with what was then the best of modern science, the geology of Charles Lyell, the astronomy of Pierre-Simon Laplace, the emerging theories about the age of the Earth. And in Chapter 6, the Untitled Chapter, Petit Australian toward the Yor, term for the science of the heavens, he laid out what the spirits had described as the actual structure of the inhabited universe. It was not random. It was not chaotic. It was a hierarchy. According to Genesis, inhabited worlds are not all alike. They are not at the same stage of development. They do not host the same kind of beings. They are not all suffering, or all peaceful, or all advanced. The universe Kardec described is layered, and the layers correspond not to physical distance from a central point, but to the moral and intellectual evolution of the beings that inhabit them. He identified 5 general categories. The first, what he called primitive worlds. These are destinations for spirits at the earliest stages of their development. Conditions are difficult. Intelligence is limited. Consciousness is only beginning to recognize itself. Modern astronomers studying the early development of any planetary biosphere would recognize the parallel, a world where life is starting, but where awareness has not yet emerged in any form we would call mature. The second category, and the one that concerns us directly, is what Kardec called worlds of trials and atonement. This, he wrote, is Earth. On these worlds, good and evil coexist in roughly equal measure. Suffering is the dominant experience for most of the population. Spirits incarnate here to confront what they avoided elsewhere, to resolve what they damaged in other lives, to develop qualities they could not develop in easier conditions. The third category, worlds of regeneration. These are worlds in transition. The spirits incarnating there have generally moved beyond the most severe trials. Pain still exists, but no longer dominates. Cooperation has begun to outweigh competition. These are worlds where civilization is healing. The fourth category, the happy worlds. Worlds where good predominates, where suffering is rare, where the inhabitants exist in a state of moral and intellectual development, substantially beyond what humanity has yet achieved. And the fifth category, what Kardec called celestial or divine worlds. Worlds inhabited by spirits whose evolution has progressed so far that their existence no longer requires the dense matter of physical incarnation as we understand it. Across these categories, spirits travel, not as bodies crossing space, but as consciousness moving between conditions of existence. A spirit may incarnate on Earth for a series of lives, then move to a world regeneration, then progress further when the time is right. Worlds in this framework are schools, and the universe is a single vast educational system, operating across distances and stages our science has not yet conceived of measuring. Why this matters. Here is what makes this framework so difficult to dismiss, even from a strictly scientific standpoint. It is not random. It is not arbitrary. It is not the kind of fragmented mysticism that one would expect from seances and table tipping in 1850s Paris. It is a structured cosmology. It predicts that life is universal, confirmed. It predicts that Earth is not central or special, confirmed. It predicts that other intelligent beings exist, likely, based on the mathematics and increasingly the subject of serious institutional study. It predicts that those beings exist at different stages of development than humanity, consistent with everything we now understand about biological and possibly civilizational evolution. And it offers something that the Drake equation does not. It offers an answer to the Fermi Paradox. If the structure of the universe is hierarchical, if more advanced civilizations exist on worlds whose inhabitants have evolved beyond the materialist phase of development, then the assumption that they would communicate with us through radio waves and visible technology may be precisely backwards. A civilization significantly more advanced than ours might not announce itself through electromagnetic transmissions. It might not arrive in metalcraft. It might be, in some sense, already here, in ways our sensory apparatus and our scientific instruments are not yet calibrated to perceive. This is not a claim that requires belief. It is a hypothesis worth considering. And it is striking that this hypothesis was articulated in this much detail by a man writing 157 years ago without a telescope, without a modern physics, without the cosmological framework that makes the question even possible to ask scientifically. Kardec was not guessing. He was, by his own account, recording. What he recorded has, with extraordinary precision, kept pace with discoveries that should have invalidated it many times over and have instead repeatedly aligned with it. In 1990, the Voyager 1 spacecraft, 6 billion kilometers from Earth, turned its camera back toward home and took a photograph. In that photograph, Earth appears as a single pale point of light less than a pixel against the immense darkness of space. The astronomer Carl Sagan looked at that image and wrote the words that would later define an entire generation's relationship with the cosmos. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Sagan was a materialist. He believed consciousness ended with the body. He believed the search for life beyond Earth was the great undertaking of the species. But he understood something Kardec had been told a century earlier, that this dot is not the center of anything. That whatever consciousness we possess is part of something incomprehensibly larger than our brief embodied lives. That the cosmos is not a backdrop. It is the actual subject. Kardec went further than Sagan would ever go. He claimed that the consciousness reading these words right now, your consciousness does not belong only to this small world that you have in lives you do not remember, existed elsewhere, that you may in lives still to come exist elsewhere again, that the universe is full of life, because the universe is the school in which all life learns what it is. Maybe he was right. Maybe he wasn't. But the next time the James Webb telescope finds another atmosphere or another congressional hearing addresses, another sighting, or another scientist quietly suggests that we may not be alone after all. Remember, a French educator wrote it down in 1868, and the universe very slowly is proving him correct. The universe is not empty. It never was. And the beings that inhabit it, their civilizations, their races, their relationship with Earth, were already mapped, not by NASA, not by the Pentagon, by a French educator in 1868 and a Brazilian medium in 1950. 10 episodes, 10 pieces of a map. The world is only now beginning to read. Next episode, it's the civilizations they described. If this is the first time you have encountered Allan Kardec, you are at the beginning of something. Subscribe, because what comes next goes deeper. And if something in this video unsettled you, stayed with you, or opened a door you did not expect, leave one word in the comments. Just one word. That is enough.